Hey YouTube, today we're going to be looking at three different types of semi-automatic pistols, and I'm going to show you that there's three different approaches to pistol designs, and as the old saying goes, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And all three of these pistols here are chambered in 45 ACP, which is otherwise known as the Lord's Caliber. It's like, why would I show you a 9mm pistol when I can show you a 45? So what we have here is we have a Glock 21 chambered in 45 ACP, and I'm going to show you that this pistol is not loaded. We have a 1911 chambered in 45 ACP, and I'm going to also show you that this one's not loaded. And we have a Ruger P97 chambered in 45 ACP, and I'm going to show you that this one's not loaded. Now, the reason for this video is to show you the difference in a striker fired pistol, which is the Glock, a single action only pistol, which is the 1911, and a double action single action pistol, which is the Ruger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how each one of them functions, and then I'm going to talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages to each one of them. And we're going to start off with the Glock. It's the most common pistol in the world. Everybody knows them. This is what they call a striker fired pistol. There is no hammer anywhere on this. It has an internal firing system. It does not work with a hammer. And in order to operate this thing, you would put a round in the chamber and you carry it just like that with a round in the chamber. It is drop safe. It will not go off until you put your finger on the trigger. Now, the only external safety on the Glock is this little lever here that's on the trigger bow. If that's not depressed, this gun will not go off. So if I put my finger on the side of this thing, if you see I'm putting it on the side, it will not go off. Until you put your whole finger on here, depress that down even, that's when it goes off. Now, if I want to release this trigger and try and pull it again, that's all it's going to do. It will not go off again unless the slide cycles and it chambers another round. So this is a striker fired semi-automatic 45 pistol. The next one we have here, this is a 1911. This is a very common design. Been around for well over 100 years, and this is single action only. So the way this thing operates is this hammer has to be cocked in order for this thing to go off. And cock the hammer, pull the trigger, and if you pull it again, it will not go off until the slide cycles. Now, the way you carry this thing is you would rack the slide, chamber around in it, and the hammer's going to be down. Now, 1911s have a very light trigger on them, and at any moment this thing could go off. So what you want to do is you got to put the thumb safety on. That way it is safe, it'll never go off here. So this is what they call the cocked and locked position, and this is what scares a lot of new firearm enthusiasts and people that have no idea what they're talking about, know nothing about firearms. They think this thing's going to go off. Well, 1911 is designed with a grip safety and a thumb safety. So even if I took this thumb safety off, I went to pull this trigger without pressing the grip safety, it still won't go off. So when you draw this out, there's one extra step that there wasn't for the Glock. When you draw it out, you push down on your thumb, and this thing is ready to go off. And man, you have to be ready for this thing. There is no thinking about it. 1911s, especially this one, have very light triggers on them. So when you touch this trigger, it's only about a 3-pound pull. You need to understand this gun is going to go off. So you would carry this one cocked and locked with the safety on, and you need to know to release the safety when you unholster it. The third one is a Ruger P97. This is a double action, single action pistol. So the way this thing works is you chamber around and the hammer's open. So what you need to do, there is no external safety on this thing, and this thing can go off at any time if you touch the trigger. So what you see here, this thing has what they call a decocker on it. So when you chamber the round, you drop this decocker and that drops the hammer. A round does not go off, folks. That is what it's designed for. So now you have a round chambered and the hammer is dropped. So when you pull this, when you release this from your holster, when you draw it, you put your finger on the trigger and as you can see, the hammer's going to go back. It's a double action pull, and it's a very heavy trigger on your first pull. And then every pull after that, because once the round goes off, it's going to cycle the slide, it's going to cock the hammer, and then it's going to go off single action every time. But you can keep pulling this trigger, and it will work double action, or it will work single action. That's why I call it double action, single action. Now, the advantages of this is when you're carrying this thing, when you draw it out, it's a heavy trigger pull. But for people that are just getting into the firearms, or people who don't have the proper training and don't know how they'll handle themselves in stressful situations, and there are a lot of stressful situations that people never think about, this extra heavy trigger pull actually gives you a moment to think, do I want to do this? See, it's that hard, long trigger pull. Gives you a little bit of time to be sure. But the 1911, you're not going to have that time. When this thing's ready to deploy, when you touch this trigger, it's going to go off. And the Glock is a little bit heavier than the 1911, but it's going to go off too. It's not quite as heavy as the Ruger, but it's nowhere near as light as the 1911. So that's a big advantage for the double action pistols that have the decocker on them. The 1911 is going to have the best trigger out of all of them. It's going to be the most accurate, but it's going to require a little bit more training to get used to pulling something out of a holster. You pull it out of the holster, first thing you're going to do is release that safety. When it goes in, you put the safety on. Pull it out, take the safety off. But it's very easy with training. You have to train with everything that you use, and that's any type of tool in life, folks. I don't care if it's a lead pencil, a ballpoint pen, or a firearm. You need to learn how to use the tools that you're going to be using so you can use them properly. Now, what mistakes people make is they go buy all these cool firearms and they just lock them up in their safe, and they never go to the range with them, and then they'll pick the coolest one and they'll start carrying it around. Well, you can't do that. I've never carried a weapon that I didn't know was 100% reliable, and I would rely on my life on it. I would never do that. Any weapon that I've ever carried, I've put through all of its paces, and I've learned it. And it's usually best to stick. This is my opinion. This may not be everybody's opinion. Stick with one. If this is the weapon that you want to carry, this is the one you need to train with. Your brain needs to learn how to use this one, what it feels like in the dark, the light, the rain, whatever. Every situation you can think of, you need to learn how to use it. Same thing goes for this 1911. If this is the weapon that you choose to carry as a 1911, you need to practice using this safety. Pulling it out, taking the safety off. It's just, you cannot just think, well, I'll be fine if the situation comes. Well, you're not going to be fine, folks. Nobody knows what they're going to do in a stressful situation. Nobody does. So the more practice you have at it, the better your chances are if you ever had to use one of these weapons. And I cannot stress it enough how important it is that people go and train and learn the tool that they're going to be using, especially when your life's on the line. So basically, I just wanted to show you the difference in a single action, double action, or I want to show you a 1911, which is single action only. And then I want to show you a striker fired Glock that works kind of like a single action, but it does not have a hammer on it, and show you how they all function. But if anybody has any questions on any of these, on how they function or anything like that, feel free to ask me. I'll be glad to answer any questions I can. I'm not an expert on any of these, but I know enough to be dangerous. If you have any questions on each one of the individual weapons, I have videos on each one of these that goes into the actual weapons. This wasn't really about the brand weapons and all that. It was just the style that they are. So anyway, folks, thank you very much for watching my video, and you folks have a great day.